Hello viewers, well we're back. TT Ride on the Edge TT3, and we're back for more action on the twisty turny street course of the Isle of Man. Surely one of the toughest experience for a super biker in the world. Never ceases to amaze me, the bravery of the riders. TT is a game I've enjoyed over the last few years. It's been a mixed bag, but TT3 hopefully will bring all of those elements together and deliver the game we all really want to be playing. So this was my first hands-on. I've gone through some feedback in this video. I've had a very limited demo with which to record from in the main, so we won't be showing you all of the new tracks, but there are some snippets and bits and pieces to look out for in the video. But I also have an interview with the developers, Fabio Rispecchi, the head of design, and Andrea Valenti, the lead physics designer, and they'll be giving me their input across all aspects of the game. And also following the video, I'll be looking to respond to some of your comments, perhaps also in video form as well. Feedback is all good. So let's take a little look first at where we've been and where we're going. Isle of Man TT came out a few years ago now, and even though the course was well modelled, the physics left a lot to be desired. Slow corners, the bike continuing on into the corner, often unexpected losses of the front end, grip issues. The bike never really felt all that in control and planted. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I felt if they could just do away with those unexpected elements, then it would be a great game in there. But it wasn't just that. We also had other courses that weren't modelled to the same level of detail that we were used to as part of the main course. Moving to Isle of Man TT2, where we thought all of those issues were going to be fixed, and no, there were some issues, new issues really. So essentially the course had been touched up and improved. There were various graphical improvements. Some of the lighting was fantastic, and the transitional weather look and feel of some of the lighting, especially over the back part of the course. In terms of physics, it was different. It took it forward in some ways, but it didn't really find the sweet spot. And one of my big issues was the moving of the camera. We had a strange sort of swaying camera. I just couldn't get on with the game. It just wasn't for me. I didn't play it very long. In fact, I still go back and play the original, especially on Switch as well. A lot of fun. Random bit of information there, but it was fun on Switch. So here we come now to Isle of Man TT3. Now the first thing to remember is this is developed by Race Ward Studio. New developers, they have a lot of experience in the bike genre, and of course last year or a couple of years ago now released Rims Racing, which for them was as a small development team was a big achievement for them to put together at the time. But now with new graphical tools, new support, they've been able to take on TT3 and move the whole thing forward into a different direction. Of course, one of the first things they've looked at is going to be the handling, and moving forward on that, working on the physics, bike animation. This is something I'm going to talk about in another video in terms of a personal history of bike games and perception of what some players think versus others that makes a good bike game. Suffice to say, you have to find a sweet spot between playability, turning the bike into the corner, and the animation of the rider. These two things don't work together, so it's trying to find a sweet spot that makes it look realistic but also play well, and it seems to me they found a nice little sweet spot in there. Also, you've got the new courses. These courses are lengthy, they are very, very challenging. The game is very, very challenging, and I can tell you right now it's going to take a lot of learning. These are 3 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, 12 minute, 14 minute, whatever laps. They are long laps, tricky roads, learning where the bumps are. It's hard enough with the Isle of Man. Again, bringing all this into it adds a whole lot of challenge. And of course you have the open world, open roads to ride around and cruise as well. This for me was a lot more fun than I expected it to be. I like the way I'm riding along the Isle of Man, and there'll be a closed road, and then I could just turn up that road. I've never been up there before. So there's a few roads here and there where you're riding along the Isle of Man and you're used to going a certain direction, and you think, actually, I can go and see what's up there, what streets are around there. I enjoyed the cruising. It also helped me become a better player at the game, because I was able to, my speed awareness, judging the corners, judging the types of bumps and how you approach certain sections worked really well. So I do suggest turning off that racing line as soon as you can. So rather than just relying on the colour of that racing line, using your perception to actually judge a corner, and ultimately you'll find a lot more speed that way, I feel, in the end. Either way, the open world mode was a lot of fun, especially with the change in weather conditions, which do look really good. Now, we don't have much footage of that. The main footage that I have today will be the Isle of Man circuit in morning conditions only, with no weather. So we can't really show much of the game at this stage, but there will be a more detailed preview later. But as I say, there might be some sneak peeks here and there in the video by the time I've edited it together, and also in the developer interview. So in terms of game contents then, let's take a look. I'll bring it up on my screen in terms of game contents, and I've lost it, so I'll take a look. There we are. Had to make a hard cut. No, so there we are, game contents. What do we got? 200 kilometers, 124 miles of roads you can ride to find points of interest and challenges to complete. Lots to explore there, including 60 kilometers of the Snaefell Mountain course, so double the length. So you've got a rough idea of how much there is there, all detailed to the same high level, which is really nice to see. 32 different courses, including current and historical routes. I take it that's forward and backward, but either way it makes a big difference actually having them all with the same graphical level, unlike in the past. Close to 40 superbikes, close but not quite maybe, to 40 superbike, supersport riders and motorcycles, improved physics, and a wide range of motorbike upgrades. Upgrades are critical in the career mode. You start off pretty much the other bikes wiping the floor with you until you find the time to actually win a few races, upgrade your bike and become more competitive. Builds you a nice bond with your bike as well. 11 different activity types. Again, can't show you them today, but we will in a later video. Multiplayer, ability to create open lobbies. I look forward to trying it online. Online competitions and weekly, monthly events bring the community together, and of course cross-gen compatibility. So lots of features in here. We're going to go to a developer interview shortly, but after the developer interview I will be looking a bit more about the physics and the different modes, the beginner, intermediate and realistic mode, and give you my feelings on those as I progress through the game. But first, let's hear from the developers. Lots of details here on the game. Let's see what they had to say. Okay, viewers, so now I'm joined by Fabio and Andrea. They'll be joining me here to answer many of my questions looking at Isle of Man. Right on the Edge 3, TT is back. So I guess really I turn to you first, Fabio. You've had an enormous challenge here. You've moved from creating rims, identifying your own unique aspects and creating a bike game and the handling and the detail within that. You're now moving, plus with your historical bike experience and bike development experience, to Isle of Man, arguably the pinnacle of superbike street racing, one of the most challenging courses on the calendar, bringing something new to the game. Tell me how it's all come together for you.
But first of all, when Nakon told us about the development of this IP, we were very happy and enthusiastic because we are very fan of this kind of event. And for us, the first thing for our design approach is to how we can use our know-how that we have for rims racing, and how we can mix this know-how with the IP that we have to work on, the TT3. So one of the first pillars of our design approach is to have the Island of Man as a protagonist in our game. So we added our know-how of the physics with a new approach for the player to explore the island and the TT. And to make this, we have created an open road exploration gameplay for the experience of the players.
How did you come up with the open roads? I mean, is there did you go there and map the island? What made you decide which roads to use? And the new tracks, they're also based, as I understand, on old Isle of Man TT layouts as well?
Yeah, we obviously start from the circuit, the Snaefell circuit for the Snaefell mountain course, the official tracks of the event. But after this, we start to study the roads of the island, and from the Snaefell, we start to move in the other roads and define other circuit, and two of them are the two historical circuits of St. John's and Clips. The roads are real, so we take them from the map of the island. So if you well know the roads that we create in the island, you will know also the real roads if you explore the real island.
Obviously, you've mapped the island. You've got these old roads that are on there. You're developing a whole new career mode. If we look at Isle of Man TT, we look at the weaknesses on the original games. We like playing the games, but the weaknesses were the physics for one part, which you had to really work on. And of course, I think building a career mode. Before we get to the physics, let's talk a bit about the career mode and the online aspects. Tell us what players can look forward to in the career mode.
Yeah. The career mode in this new game is a difference compared to the previous one. We don't have the classic calendar of events to face the day by day, but it's based on the exploration of the island. The player can explore the island and find some different kind of point of interest. And the most important are the seasons events. The player can perform a season for each category that we have in the game, and we have a super sport and super bike category that the player can play in the same time. So the player can switch on the fly between the two categories, choosing a rider, an official rider of the 2022 event. And the season is composed by 16 unofficial events that the player can use to collect upgrade points to upgrade his motorbike, and finishing with the two official TT events, the qualification and then the race. Finishing a season, the player can start a new one, and the sequence of an official event will change. The most important thing is that exploring the island, there are also many other extra events, extra point of interest. That could be task event, face-off, time attack, and the most important for us, for a new approach, the discovery points that are new information about the history of the island, the history of the rider, the history of the TT event, because we want to introduce not only the classic, the famous event of the race on the Snaefell, but also the history of the event, the history of the island. We want that new players comes in the games and learn about this beautiful and incredible event.
It's a great introduction for people to learn about the Isle of Man. I certainly, when I first played it, I liked the idea of an open world, but I found that when I was playing it more, I was enjoying it more and more and more. I was just enjoying the riding. There is, of course, the hurdle in Isle of Man TT that it's not an easy game to play. It is a real challenge. You need to put some time in. Andrea, I'm going to cross to you now. Let's talk about physics. The game is very challenging, and one of the weaknesses of Isle of Man TT 1 and 2, in my eyes, was the physics, especially low-speed physics through the corner, whether you've got that sort of, the bike comes out from under you, whether it unexpectedly carries on driving into the corner, or whether you have the wobbly bike sometimes on exits of corners. It's always a challenge. So tell me from your perspective, you're moving to TT3, talk me through the physics and how you guys have moved forward.
Yes, well, compared to the previous TT game, the physics model of TT3 has been redesigned with a completely new approach. As you can see inside the game, putting the motorbike and its framework at the center of the whole experience. But we worked a lot on to recreate the perfect relationship between motorbike, rider, and track. Obviously, the results obtained with the Rims Racing, the first hour game, and the great feedbacks received from our community helped the team to redefine the structure of the bike and highlights the great differences and specificities of each model provided in the game. So we work and redesigned the motorbike chassis, the bike behaviors during leaning and cornering, of course, the stability of the suspension, one of the best components, the most important components inside the bike, and of course, calibration and brakes, on brakes and acceleration as well. Last but not least, we worked on tires with a new realistic and dynamic consumption system, also improving traction and friction. This because we want to aim to give the player more feedback from the road surface, of course, not only on the Snaffle mountain synchro-course, but on entire surface on the aisle, and we want to find the best solution to give a best simulative approach to all provide the gameplay activities.
Great. Now, obviously, you've worked a lot on the physics in all those areas, which is everything the fans wanted. In particular, I feel the tyres are much more detailed now. You've got the 3-piece tyre as well in terms of tyre wall and temperatures on wear and stuff like that, and it'll be interesting to see how players can maximize the performance out of those in different races. So one of my challenges has been, the things I explain to bike gamers is there is a balance you have to find on bike games between the stick turning, the bike leaning, and the rider animation. A lot of gamers get confused with this. They want to see a bike that animates perfectly. This means the biker sits up, they hit the brake, they prepare their body weight for the corner. This is a process which takes a few seconds. When you're playing a bike game like Isle of Man, high speed, you need to see the apex turn that way, and it needs to do that all on its own, basically. You need that adjustment. I can imagine it's a big challenge getting that right, but you seem to have worked well on the animation this time to almost preempt the corner in some way. How have you managed to work that magic?
Well, as you know, you are a fan of racing games. You are a hardcore gamer about this topic, so you recognize immediately when you have to turn, when you have to lean, when you have to brake. But this is not the same for many players around the world. We work for all type of the players. Most important thing to do when we make a new racing game is to create and find the perfect balance between the motorbike model and the surface. We have to create the perfect balance between what the player feel during the leaning, during the brakes, and what the model can do to help the player. The animations have a big role under this aspect. We work with a great animator who recognize exactly the moves, the pose, the rider, and this helps a lot our players to understand the morphology of the road and understand each situations to perform the best action in every situation.
Yeah, well, I think you've got it right. I am actually of the school of thought that the leaning option is always better. One of my favourite bike games of all time was Namco MotoGP on the PlayStation 2. Yeah. And I love that game because I could look at an apex, I could turn and hit it. Now, by today's standards, it would look very unrealistic to a lot of gamers, even Tourist Trophy and these games that inspire us today. But to us as players, we're leaning the bike, it's going where we want to go. That's exactly the feeling that we need. And so you're trying to find that balance. And I think you found that balance very well. It seems to work in an authentic way. And so far, my plays felt really good. Fabio, back to yourself. Online modes. We've got more in the way of online modes this time. You've got cross-play. You've got weekly events. Tell me, what can players be looking forward to in building that community?
In the game, we have an online mode that the player can create a lobby with for a maximum of 10 players. that can run together to create a full customizable experience. So they can decide the tracks if they want to run a full circuit tracks or a section of them, and how many attempts or laps, the riders, the motorbike, the category, the time of the day, the weather condition, and so on, to have a funny experience. And they create a sequence. They can create a sequence of races to have a little championship within them. And there are also other game modes with asynchronous gameplay that are weekly or monthly challenges that the player can face them to record the best time they can. And thanks to our online leaderboards, we can define the champion for week challenges. And there will be also an esport game mode that will be based on asynchronous time recording. So like online leaderboards that finish with a final version of the championship that will be defined by Nakon in the future.
Well, I say good luck to all those players. I think it'll be a lot of fun online. I think that it's also quite interesting to see what the best players can achieve. I'm always one of those people who's amazed when I watch the best players in the world on some of these games, and they're impossibly fast through the course. They're faster than you could ever imagine. The way they use the physics and prepare for the corners, it all looks really nice. I think the new tracks, a great addition as well. One of the features I think that stand out, we haven't seen so much in the footage we have on the demo, is the implementation of weather. I think you've got a really nice weather system now. The rain in particular looks much better this time. And I've really enjoyed it on some of the new circuits. Now, don't get me wrong, the difficulty is tough on the game, and the difficulty curve is very tough as well. These circuits are maybe 8 minutes a lap, and they're very challenging, but they do look fantastic in the different times of day and lighting. Graphics technologies move forward. I just wondered really, Fabio, I guess for yourself. Let's first consider Davey Todd's involvement. Having a real biker involved and someone like Davey brings a lot to the game. Which one of you would best answer talking about working with Davey and his feedback? Which one of you would like to take the question on that? Because I can imagine it really helps to have a biker who really knows his stuff.
We speak a lot with him and to receive many important feedback because of the feedback of our real riders that he's bet his life every year in that circuit is very important for us. We are very happy about his feedback because the feeling that he has immediately trying our game is very close to the reality for him. He make some mistakes smiling after that because of he have performed the same mistake he probably do in the real life. And I remember that someone asked him if the lap records is similar to the reality or is faster in the game than in the reality. And he noticed him that probably in the game you can be faster, but only because in the real life, if you fall, you die.
Yes.
You don't respawn like in the game. So probably
Yes.
during playing the game, you are more confident that if you crash, you don't have so many consequences like in the real life.
Yes. Yes. I noticed that a lot with racing drivers have said that to me over the years, and we could go flat there, but it's a risk. And of course, in a game, when you hit bumps, you just go for it. If you crashed, well, never mind. But in real life, I can imagine. I tell you, something that always amazes me is the calmness of the riders. The way they're like, there's a bump there. You're over the bump. That's okay. Then you're looking at this, and I'm playing the game. And I feel the tension when you're on the edge. When you guys are having a competition in the office and you're saying, right, we're going to do a stage 2 competition today. Who's the best? You feel the tension just racing in your office. When you're on a real bike and you've got it all going on and that level of risk, I can't imagine the adrenaline. And I think when you talk to someone like Davey or the Ironman TT riders, I have no end of respect for them in the risk and the challenge they put themselves through.
David Todd give us many feedback also about the feeling that he had driving our motorbike, our version of motorbike, and the thrilling, the emotions, the agonism between riders and so on. He feel the same the same feeling that he had in the real life. So we were very happy about his this point of view, and he speak a lot with Andrea, that is our lead physics designer. So to check if many of our choice for the manager of the physics of the motorbike is correct or not, if in many situations the behavior is the same like in the real life and so on. So David was very happy, and we are happy about it.
Let's talk a quick moment about sound, audio for the bikes. It's always a challenge to get it right. I know that a lot of bike fans will be watching, and there'll be some bikes will sound better than others, and it's very difficult for you as a developer to. I find that it's very hard to get a straight answer from anyone on audio to try to understand the challenges, because you record a bike and then you have to attach those sounds to the physics, and then it's a balancing act from there to make something that sounds authentic. Often I say to people, what is your example of sound? And it might be an internet video, in which case they've used a compressed microphone, or if your example is in real life, you hear the sound, how loud and distorted it is. What's the challenge for you guys as a developer, getting the best audio for your game? Which one of you want to answer that?
Okay. But the audio was very important for us. It gives a bigger percent of feeling when you are playing a racing game, and for the immersion of the player in as a rider. In Rims Racing, the audio was one of our best target achieved in the game by the players. We had many congratulations about how we make the audio. And we use the same approach for TT3. We have recorded the motorbike inside, and we manage the audio samples like we made in Rims. Obviously, we have more motorbikes types and category compared with Rims, but the approach is the same. We stay on island to record as sample we can, and not only for the engine of the motorbike, but also for the ambience and for many other SFX that we use in the game to have the most realistic as possible experience for the player, like they are in the island.
Certainly, I mean, it's always going to be a mix. You're not going to keep everybody happy all the time, but it's certainly clear that steps forward have been made on the audio and it's moving in the right direction. One thing you highlighted there, of course, you upgrade your bike in the game, and thinking about Rims for a second, there was a bond with your bike. You get your bike and you upgrade it, and you stick with that bike. I have found that in the career progression on TT3, I get a similar feeling, because you're upgrading your bike and that character. There are races that you struggle to win at first, that when you upgrade your bike, you still have that sort of upgrade feeling in a positive way, and a similar sort of upgrade artistic design as well to the HUD there. All of that works well. Has that all been influenced by Rims?
We have in TT3 simpler upgrades of the components. We don't have the aesthetic grades of the components like in Rims. More simpler upgrade, more casual, let me say, approach for the upgrades. We have less components compared by Rims. In Rims we had more than 48 components that could be upgraded by the player. So in this time we have 9 components, the most important components for the motorbike. Obviously, in our engine, the other components are working in our engine physics, but for the player, can only upgrade from level 1 to level 5 this component. But as in rims, the player has to better understand how to manage the upgrades of this component to have a correct balance between this component performance for the behavior of the motorbike. For this reason, it's not so easy to upgrade the motorbike only, upgrading, for example, the engine to not have a good balance for the motorbike. So we all of the player also to downgrade some components when he works on the motorbike to better create this good balance between all the components. So he can upgrade some components, try the motorbike with the new behavior that he has because of some companies upgraded, and then define if it's okay or not and decide to downgrade something to upgrade something else and so on.
Well, the upgrades work really well. Again, subtle improvements. For those of you watching today, there are minor upgrades to every single aspect of the bike. Well, I say every aspect, a wide range of aspects, and you do feel them, and they do make critical elements that enable you to be a bit quicker and a bit lean on your bike a bit more responsive, better under braking, turning in, and the all important feeling of grip from the tires. So it works very well, very subtle, and well done to you there. Andrea, I guess just a question for you finally about the physics. Tell me an aspect that you would like to share with the audience, one of your favorite aspects of the physics in TT3. Let us know.
One of the best parts of our job is to recreate some specific sensation about the race, about the event, about the relationship between a motorbike and riders. Of course, it is universally recognized that the Isle of Man is the most dangerous racing in the world of motorsport. And the riders are called to have a mental and physical effort. They are focused on achieving the ideal symbiosis with their bike. So for us, the funniest thing of our job is to recreate this sensation, this relationship. Of course, the game now with our new system of physics is very complex to understand at the beginning. Physics are less complex from one side, but at the same time is more user-friendly for all type of players. Even with a realistic option activated, riding a superbike is very funny and at the same time is very tricky sometimes. But we made a great job on the relationship between the tires and the surfaces, so we avoid totally crashes, the unexpected crashes. I love to say that we work on the perceived physics, not only on the real physics. I love to say that I work on the perceived physics because the physics model is not only the main part of the physical model. We have to manage different part of the riding experience, and the riding experience is composed by physical model, sensation from the player, and the relationship with the joypad, with the control, the input system, of course.
Excellent. Well, certainly you've made that real progress, and it is a step forward. It'll be interesting to see fans playing it, maximizing their performance. A final question then to Fabio. What's the aspect you've been most proud of? You relieved it's in the game, it looks great. Tell me your favorite aspect of TT3.
But first of all, I am proud about my team because of it's fantastic to create in a short time this kind of a game. But for the game, we are very proud about the physics, obviously, because it's one of our musts, and the new approach of the game. We focuses to have a good experience about the island, this new approach by the open roads, and we are very proud about that. We hope that player will be the same for us.
Well, listen, thank you both very much for your time today. Thank you very much.
Bye, see you.
For having us, thanks.
So great to hear from the developers there. I always appreciate their input, and I hope we've answered a lot of your questions and concerns about the game. Obviously, if you have more questions and concerns, do put them in the comments. I may answer them in a video or in written form when I have time there as well. But of course, back to the demo that we have recorded here for you today. And for me, one of the key aspects to look at was the handling. So I spent because we spend a lot of time crashing on Isle of Man, you get to learn the first 5 stages pretty well. And so I decided to work on these and hone them. But what you're seeing here is actually my first run. So I've gone with default settings and just said, right, press start. Let's see what we're presented with at the beginning of the game. So this is beginner handling with combined brakes and automatic tuck-in. And of course, we've got the racing line there. The bike is much more stable over the bumps to help beginners get into the game. This is really important because we don't just want to scare everybody away. We want to get new people into biking, but also you want to get, you know, as gamers, I want to grow the audience. You know, I want to see more people enjoying Isle of Man. It's still quite tricky, but the racing line was accurate. It was telling me what to do accurately. I was following what it was telling me, and everything was working quite well. I found the bike, it was a bit slower in terms of its turning, but it was steady and nice and solid. And this is what you need from a bike simulation, if you like, in terms of your initial hands-on. Just looking at the graphics while we're here, obviously there's a more rich environment and more colours and very nice greens. I've always felt that the Kiloton studio, when they're modelling various courses, have great foliage. Nobody does foliage like Kiloton, and of course the Race Ward taking it on here and giving it all a touch up, making it look a bit more realistic. I actually prefer the other times of day, lighting wise. We have the moody morning light here to an extent, but when we were seeing in the early videos, I thought, is it always a grey day? But there is different types of weather. Though I have to admit, my favourite weather visually is the rain. I think they've done a really nice job with that, at least on the early build. That's not to say there isn't room for improvement, there always is, but making a great progress there. This section, high speed, I think this is always good to test. How the bike turns through the high speed corners, how it rides you go up the crest and you have this little jump downhill. You see the bike gets a little bit of air, very light there, and then you sweep to the right and to the left before slowing down for the right-hander coming up ahead, and then a tricky section. So it's interesting to see the instability of the bike, where the bike's stable and not stable, how I'm able to follow the racing line. It's very helpful having the racing line because it shows perfect bike positioning, and when you're not using it, how you can easily go off. I got away with the curb there. Sometimes if you touch a curb on the beginner setting and you lift off the power, just roll across it. If you're lucky, you'll be okay. But if you're playing it on the more challenging settings or the realistic settings, likely that won't happen. And of course, I've got all the traction control and assists on. Now, throughout this video, I don't turn off manual tuck-in because it's just hard enough as it is for me. So then I go into the options and I change to the next handling option, which is intermediate. Get rid of the racing line. Go again. Okay, so now we're on to intermediate handling. Let's see how this feels straight away. Holding on to the clutch and then away we go. Again, I've got traction control on. I wouldn't be turning this off. I mean, for a lot of you watching out, unless you're a top level player, it's very challenging. A lot of these assists you'll want to keep on to get some enjoyment from the game. Immediately I'm feeling the bike moving around a lot more on the bumps, and oh, it just carried me a bit wide and off I went. I restarted, tried again, crashed again. I restarted again, got halfway round and crashed again. It was again a couple of corners. That's the front brake. I was leaning too heavy on the brakes. I was braking too late for the corner basically. You've got to prepare the bike before the corner. If you're braking heavily when you're turning, you'll lose the front end, and that's what happened there. And of course there was this pesky wall that just kept coming for me. Eventually, after a few tries, those you've seen there, this is a try now where I actually complete my run. So what did I notice? The surface texture was, the suspension was not riding the bumps as well. You was needing to prepare the bike more for the bumps. When you were hitting a few bumps, you might need to lift a bit more. You need to be more precise with the bike, smoother with the inputs and the controls as well. Perhaps I was being too aggressive when I was on the beginner level. Progression is really important, using the analog triggers, really progressive control of the bike. Even with traction control, it's not an automatic save you button. You still need to be progressive on acceleration. Now, this corner we're coming to here is always a little bit tricky. It's one of the most tricky for me on the whole track. Don't want to go in too early, but by the time I turned and the animation takes place, you're quite wide the other way. Oversteered nearly head-butted the wall. We're okay. I was sort of offline here, so I decided to take a big lift there because I was offline on the way in. I wasn't able to position the bike. Still not entirely certain how much speed I can take through there. So all through that section I was slightly offline. And a bit wide again. Just getting used to the way the bike turns, the time it takes to turn. Obviously the rider having to pull the bike over with their body weight. This is always a nice relaxing moment. Just high speed. Don't think I ever crash here. It always feels nice. And then you're coming up to this high speed corner. Risky. Wow. Just throw the bike in. I did a big lift there. I did a big lift that time, so I'd crashed there earlier, and that's it. I've broken my arms and legs. I thought, let's not do it again. Let's just get through it, get the video done. That's always an issue with YouTube. You don't want to show constant crashing, so I was taking bigger lifts there, so there's more time to find all these sections. You see where I was offline, taking lifts, and now flat through here. You've got to be committed through this section. You've just got to keep the speed, keep the bike straight. If you turn at the point of the bike lifting and bottoming out, you're going to lose it. The traction control will not save you. Really important to note, especially in wet weather conditions. If you hit a bump like that, the bike goes light. You've just got to keep the bike as straight as possible, otherwise it will wiggle out and it's all over for you. And yeah, that's it. You're not going to recover from that one. So coming round then to complete this section, and then after this we'll move on to the realistic settings to see how we get on there. But, oh no, we've still got a bit of time on this one. There we go, round here. Navigating that section okay. Taking it easy. I'm near the end. Took a big lift. That's fine. More speed to be found to all those sections, but I'm trying to make it clean. So that was a look at the intermediate settings. Now into the options to change it to realistic and try again. So again, load it up, get the course going. You can see there the new HUD displays. I haven't had a chance at the point of making this video to analyze tyre wear overlap. One of the issues with Isle of Man is it takes a long time to play, so I'm going to put some more time into the demo once I get the chance, and we'll try that out and give you guys some more feedback on that. So realistic, the bike is really alive now on the bumps. You're really feeling a lot more about what the bike's doing, more progressive, careful with your lines through the corner. You can really see it going up and down through those sections. It's a bit more unstable. It makes me a bit more nervous. I was slowing down a bit because I was slightly offline, and of course that was it. So I crashed there again, braking too heavily on the front. I was braking too late into the corner, oversteering there. I had a bump on the way in that caught me through. Again, that was a bump when I was turning while on a bump. You've got to relearn to play the whole game when you change your settings from one to another. But I did find that once I put some serious time into realistic, it actually became my favourite option. And when you progress into the game, you begin to feel the bike more and more. You feel like you have more control and more feeling of the bike. The problem is learning the courses. You know, you've got to spend time learning the course. If I forget something there we are. You've got to spend time learning the course. You can't just go into it and expect to do it first time. You can do a track 100 times, but when you turn off certain assists or certain elements, you have to relearn how to take those sections at speed. And no matter how many times I've done this in different games, it's always slightly different. How you brake just a little bit, coast through the corner, especially the slow corner. This was where you would oversteer essentially on the original game, whereas now it has a nice flow to it. The direction change is always pretty challenging here. This would need some practice. I haven't got this right, so I'm slowing down and giving myself time, but I braked a bit too early that time. At least this game gives me, actually, yeah, it looked okay on the exit, but it wasn't as quick. It looked better than it was fast. Again, just trying to keep it a little bit wide. Let's throw the bike in, see how it works. Better, still a big lift. I was still playing it very safe. And a nice lift here as well. I wasn't entirely certain, because of the bike moving around more on the bumps, I was being a bit more tentative as to my riding style at this point. Could have been a lot more aggressive. So in terms of timing, we're very similar across the three. This one's a bit slower, so we did a 3:10 on beginner, a 3:11 on intermediate, and I think a 3:17 on realistic. But if I'd rerun these times a lot more, you'd have found them to be pretty near identical. That's a good thing. I think probably in the end I'll be quicker with realistic once I really know the correct lines and some of the tricky bumps. There's just a few bumps here and there that can throw the bike off, or you know, turn-ins that are just slightly different. So something to work on there. But either way, it's great to see the step forward. So yeah, a couple of the main issues of the original game, you know, we like the track, you know, the other tracks, bring them up to standard, the physics improving them. There's bound to be things to discover in the final game. I haven't got the final game, but when I get the final game, we'll look at the new tracks in detail. I'll work on feedback for all of you guys. Lots of video clips of all the different bikes coming as well. Loads of coverage to come on Isle of Man TT3. So as I finish these last few corners now, that's it from me for my first look at Isle of Man TT. Ride on the edge. We're back for more riding on the edge. I'll be doing more riding on the edge, but that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon.